Hi, this is Laurie Laizure from Interior Design Community with To the Trade, our podcast. We have with us Michael Kaestner. Hi, Michael.
Hello there. How are you?
Michael, tell us a little bit about your design business first and foremost, but that is not the subject of our podcast today. We're going to be talking about health and fitness, but Michael has a great background, but let's talk about his business first.
Sure. For the last 20 years, I've developed my craft in kitchen design and bathroom design and have expanded, as most of us designers do, into the other areas of the home and trying to establish healthier lifestyles for my clients and improve their daily living and their moods and how the home greets them 3 times a day when they're using different spaces. Located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I'm very passionate about helping people and providing service to my clientele.
I know you are, and you're really great at it. So I really am excited to talk to you about this. Was recently just chit chatting with you in general and finding out that you have this background in health and fitness, and your education originally stemmed from that, which is so cool. So many designers I know have come into design from different areas, but this is something in particular that I am pretty passionate about. And I'm excited to talk to you about health and fitness and how that can be incorporated in a designer's life, as designers are really like stressed out on a daily basis. And
It's so
how can
true.
we make them less stressed? How can we my goal for this podcast is so that they sleep well at night. That's really, at the end of the day, that's what I want, is giving designers tools that help them feel more confident in their business decisions so that they can rest well, rest easy, and enjoy their lives. So how are you incorporating with your education? How did you do that? How did you bring that into your business also? Health and fitness.
Okay. So it's an interesting topic, Laurie, because I think that as designers, anyone watching this podcast or listening to it will agree that it's like the ocean waves. There's the crest, there's the low part, there's the ebb and flow with the tides, if you want to use that analogy, because I love the beach. And I think it's important to realize that we have to remember whenever we get the chance, because some of us are very busy and don't have time to think about things for ourselves, which is the root of the problem here. But we have to remember to check in with ourselves, take inventory, and realize how we're doing physically, whether that's going to a doctor annually, getting blood work done, checking your vitals on a regular basis. And for me, with my practice, I've noticed that when I get busy with work, the self-care goes out the window. It's non-existent. I have these really great intentions, and I really aspire to be as fit as I was when I was in high school or early college years when I was still an athlete. And in my brain, I'm still 22 years old. I can still do all the physical feats and I can accomplish anything that I set my mind to. Nowadays, I think the only thing that rings true is that last statement is whatever you set your mind to, you can accomplish. However, vehicle's a little different these days, and the people calling about my extended warranty, I probably should listen to them because they're talking about the warranty for this vehicle, my body. And for all of us designers, we have to find something that works for us, and our lifestyles vary, right? Some of
Right.
us, some designers I speak with, we start very early in the morning before our partners or spouses are even up. We're in bed looking at emails. What's going on today? What's on fire? What do I have to put my attention to? So the idea of, oh, wow, that 8 o'clock spin class or that 10:30 Pilates class that I like to do 3 days a week, these things get shoved aside for our clients' needs. We're in a service industry, and it's important that we remain on top of things and we don't show them we're sweating when we're really nervous about how things are going with the project. It happens from time to time, and we have to play the role, right? What I started realizing with myself was a little bit of personal information about me. Probably about a decade ago, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. So it's underperforming thyroid glands in your throat here, and it affects your metabolism. So never had a problem with that growing up, could eat anything, never gained weight really, was always muscular, was always fit and healthy. And it happened a little longer than 10 years ago when I realized that I was falling asleep after lunch. I always had these, bags under my eyes. I couldn't go out for a normal jog. I felt like my body was melting as I was running. And I was like, what in God's name is happening to me? And so I said, let me go to the doctors and see what's going on. And my thyroid levels, Laurie, were like off the charts. It was
Oh,
like,
wow.
oh my God, like your functionality inside is shutting down. Like you need to do something. And it's as simple as this little pill, this Synthroid pill that I take, which over the years, the dosage has gone up a little bit. And I'm happy to say for the last 5 years or so, I haven't had to change dosage, but that added to my daily regimen of okay, how do I get regular again? So sometimes we need something from Western medicine in our daily routine, whether it's vitamins to make up for lack of absorption because we're not eating properly, absorption of minerals and
Mhm.
vitamins. Sometimes it's just a regular multivitamin because you're older
Oh,
and maybe your bone density is going down, something unfortunately that you and the rest of the female population have to deal with a lot more than us men. But it happens to the best of us and all of us, actually. And then also looking at how am I eating and how am I planning my meals? And unfortunately, that's one of the things that I see takes a sidebar to the grind of what we do as designers in trying to impress people and trying to be ahead of the eight ball and not get caught looking unprepared or not having an answer when someone needs one. So bringing nutrition back into it for me was vital. And when I don't want everyone to get the wrong idea. I don't do the meal planning and like on social media where I have all the bowls out and I have all the chicken breasts and all. It doesn't have to be that. If you do have fitness involved in your regimen 2 to 3 times a week, cardio, strength training, I recommend for everyone. Strength training is critical and it's often overlooked. We can get into that. If you're doing those things and your blood work's in check and you're getting regular rest, 6 to 8 hours a night minimum, I would say that your diet just has to be proportionate to your output of your energy and what you're doing per day. And if you're running and doing physical work, if you're in the field, if you're, an installer, you're lifting things, you're just really pushing your body to the limit, then you need more calories and you need to keep those healthy things with you. Obviously, things off the shelf prepackaged are typically not as healthy as food you can, whole foods that you can create. However, fruits, vegetables, things like that, and simple carbs that will give you the fuel you need are going to get you through and keep you to a level of performance that you need so you're not overdoing it. As we age, our adrenal glands don't work as well as they used to. And we just really beat our bodies up, Laurie. And without some kind of check in daily, weekly, monthly, or without some kind of goal setting, whether it's monitoring your weight, not to be obsessive about weight. Please don't do that. Don't get on the scale every day and expect to see changes. It doesn't work that way. Maintain a healthy lifestyle. And if we simply stop, Laurie, and think about, okay, maybe I went through a stressful situation this morning with a client, right? Let's put this in real life scenario. How do you feel? How do you respond to that? I can tell you point blank that since I've been exercising, my whole mental state has changed. And by that, I am able to receive criticism. I am able to deal with critical situations, stressful situations, and have a better poise of performance, if you will, as opposed to before when I wasn't taking care of myself because exercise grounds me. It keeps my feet on the ground. It makes me feel like I'm balanced, I'm centered, I know who I am, I feel healthy. And let's also just say the elephant in the room is you exude confidence when you're
sure.
fit. You
Yeah.
feel good, you look good, even with clothes.
Huh.
Dress up for that meeting, dress up for the job you want. Like all those sayings really make a difference. And same goes for your health. A clean bill of health, especially if you're worried about something. You go in there to the doctors and you're like, "Oh my god," you're thinking all week, all month. For some of us, you have to wait months to get an appointment with a specialist. So when you get that checked off your list, you're like, "Okay, bullet dodged. Now what? Maybe my levels were a little elevated. What can I do to change that?" I'll put it out there for everybody and put the spotlight on my face. My LDL level, my cholesterol was elevated a little bit and I don't like taking medicine. So the doctor suggested one of these pills. And I'm like, you know what? Give me 6 months to a year before my next blood work. And I am hitting it hard. I turned 50 in November. And I'm like, let me see what I can do. Because physiologically, we can make some changes to our body through exercise and diet. But unfortunately, some of us just have this uphill climb for the rest of our life, and we rely on medication to reestablish that equilibrium, that harmony in our body with the way the blood work is and the way the organs work. So I always say, let me try to do it my way first. Let me do what I know is best for me. Let me take care of myself. Let me listen to my body, get rest, stay hydrated. Water is critical. I can thank my girlfriend for that. She
Yes.
reintroduced water into my life and took soft drinks away for the most part. Water is critical. The joints don't hurt as much in the morning. And as far as bad habits, we all have them. Sugar is my demon, and that's what I've been working on, minimizing the added sugar. I have a sweet tooth. Dark chocolate is the enemy.
It could be anything like too. It's I know designers who go to a high point, they're surrounded by food and alcohol and I'm sure the same thing with having a stressful day. It's you can get into that like wine habit or you just want to make sure that you're making choices that are setting you up for as much success, as much mental clarity as you possibly can. And you're not going to be perfect. That's a fact, but you can do everything you can to make sure you're making the choices that will help you lead a happier, healthier life so that you can function better in your business, I think. And it's not, believe me, I'm not saying that from a perspective of having all the answers because I certainly do not. But I've taken my health a lot more seriously in the last few years. And, I definitely don't have all the answers, but I try to, whenever I find a hack, I try to share it with everyone because, like, I'm a big track. I'm pretty great at getting my walk in every day.
Yeah.
So
Non-negotiable. I call them the non-negotiables.
yeah, I'm pretty good
Hmm.
at that. I'm pretty good about protein. I can almost always get my protein in, and I shoot for 100 grams of protein a day, which is crazy, but I try to get it 100 grams of protein, and you'd be surprised. Like, there's lots of tricks to that, like throwing a scoop of cottage cheese in your scrambled eggs, things like that that can boost your protein. I struggled for a long time with fiber. I was like, I cannot, for the life of me, get fiber in because you'd think like all the recommendations are like chickpeas or split peas or things like that. You'd have to eat a crazy volume. Like
Yeah.
one can of chickpeas is 250 calories, and I'd have to eat three of them, three full cans of chickpeas to get my daily fiber in. But I found those like zero carb tortillas that are 25 calories a tortilla, and I use those at lunch now all the time. Sometimes I'll do a snack with a little peanut butter and some banana in it or something like that, and I get my fiber in most days now, which I'm like, thankfully. Like, I'm trying to pay attention to the little nutrient things that I need to have to keep my body moving in the way that it should be so that I can have that success. And yes, bone density is another thing that I'm constantly like thinking about, like how, I don't know. I bought one of those like vibrating. Did you see it on Facebook? I
Oh,
have,
yeah. The body oscillators. Yes.
yes, and it
Yes.
like wiggles you. I do my weights with it while I'm on it for 15 minutes. I'll do arm weights and I think it's crazy. I'm like, I don't know if this is working. It's just vibrating my body. Not like a
It's
vibrating
also
pad.
but it's also, especially if you're lifting things or if you can balance on it on one leg or whatever, like, you're working your core
Yeah.
with that
Oh, you
displacement.
can feel it. You can feel when you
Yeah.
get off of it, you feel completely it's a 15 minutes, but you feel
You know what
drained.
it does to me? It creates vibration creates a histamine release in the body. That's why if you ever have one of those little, like, knob vibrators that you do your neck or, like, your elbow or those what are those new ones? The sport ones, the percussive tools. If you do it for such a high frequency in an area, you will get itchy and numb, and afterwards, you're like, "Oh, why am I so
Yeah.
itchy?" Because it
Yeah.
creates a histamine, the chemicals in blood, as a response, and eventually you'll go numb, you'll get desensitized when you
I've
do that.
never put that together, and you know what? I love a hot tub, and we don't use it in the winter here, unfortunately, because our pipes will freeze, but I can't stand the bubbles on when my husband loves the bubbles, but I
Yeah.
can't stand it because I do feel that itchy feeling all over, and
Yep.
I'm like, "This drives me nuts. I cannot
I
do
get
it."
the same way, and some of it could be the bromine or whatever as well, the chemicals, but
Could
it
be, yes.
does tend to yeah, or if you're in front of one of the jets, it feels good for a little while, and then you start getting like, "Ah,
It's
getting itchy."
annoying. I'm
Annoying me.
yes, I'm exactly the same way. It drives me nuts. And then I'm like, I just like to be in it with it on, not the bubbles.
And all the things we're talking about right now, these little tools or little tricks for feeling better. I mean, it my advice to people is if you find something that works for you, then, invest in it and use it. Because if you add it to your daily repertoire and it does provide either a calming sensation or it gets you going in the morning. If like your full body vibration tool, that's something you can use to wake yourself up in the morning. It's stimulating and you're ready to go. It's what it's supposed to do is simulate like a full body workout, depending
Right.
on if you're just standing there
Yeah,
or
I don't
whatever.
really use it for I think there are people who say that they use that in like in replacement of exercise. I go tend to go to the gym first, or
Yeah.
I really love walking outside. So like most of the seasons I'll walk outside if it's reasonable.
Oh, it's
And it's
great. Yeah.
in New
Yeah.
Hampshire right now it was like 20 something degrees this morning. So I'm not going to walk outside in 20-degree weather. I'll do 35
Oh, you could bundle
plus.
up.
I'm
Just
fine
protect
bundling
your
up, but,
lungs.
like, it's that wind factor and
Yeah, I
getting, like,
know.
chapped cheeks and no thank you. So,
I
I'll go to the
understand.
gym on those days, but then I'll come back and I'll have breakfast, and then I'll do that. I call it I tell my husband, I'm like, "I'm going to have my wiggle," and I just wiggle. Sometimes I'm lazy and I'll just watch TikToks and for that 15 minutes, and then sometimes I'll do weights, and then I
I
shower,
I
and
think one of the important things to remember is that the body gets accustomed to the demands that are placed upon it. And there's
Right,
actually a training principle for weightlifting. I got into reading a lot about that because I started when I was a teenager and I wanted to know how does this work? And we have to keep applying increased demands on our body to improve. If you do the same thing over and over again, sure, you could maintain, you could even take a little bit of a dip. But for what you're saying you're doing, it's great that you're switching things up and changing because you're gonna keep your body at a higher level of functionality that way, and your
right,
muscles will perform better, and your body just is in a better state of wellness. When we're talking about, like, the non-negotiables I mentioned earlier, I was always taking my cute little my Boston Terrier, anybody who visits my Instagram page knows Enzo. I was taking him for 1 lap around our neighborhood. And we always assumed, oh, it's a quarter mile, half mile. We did not know. So the other night we went for a walk and there's like an outer loop and an inner loop. And I measured them. I have one of those wheels. We were going to get a fence a couple of years ago. We ended up getting one for Enzo. And I had that wheel to mark things out to see. And I did the test with for feet and realized that 2 loops is a little over a mile. And I'm like, this is great. Now I know there's no ambiguity. Now I know that every time that I take Enzo for a walk, we're doing 2 laps. So I've literally tripled my walking per day in the last couple weeks, which has really helped me start to feel better and notice that I'm actually my body's feeling tighter. I'm not feeling as fluffy as I was before. And of course, there's got to be some kind of weight loss. For me, I'm more focused about how do my clothes fit? How do I
right.
feel?
How do you feel?
As opposed to the weight per se, the number. But also, I want to know, what my body composition is because as we get older, you have a certain length of width of waistline as a man. It's either pre-diabetic or it's heart disease. And these are
Right,
things that are on my mind that, hey, this is the perfect time. Like I have all of my faculties with me. Truth be told, I'm bionic from the waist down. I have two new hips. The second one was last February. I got that replaced. And once I started to feel healed from that, I was like, let's go after it because
sure,
anyone who knows if you have a foot issue, I know some people have feet and ankle issues, knee issues.
sure.
They feel like they can't do anything and they feel a lack of productivity in their life. And mentally, it beats you up. You're like, "Oh, I'd love to go," like you mentioned, "love to go to High Point, but I know I'm gonna be a burden to people around me, or I'm gonna be in pain. I'm not gonna wanna walk around. It's gonna ruin my time." My mom, the person who gave birth to me, she has some orthopedic issues, and I see that if we go to do something together whenever she visits, it's limited, and that breaks my heart, and I don't wanna
Yeah,
be there when I'm older. I want
right,
quality of life. So for all the designers out there listening, it's never too late to start working on your fitness.
right, and it
Like,
doesn't
what
have to be, like, small incremental changes. It doesn't have to be like, when I first started
Oh,
really
absolutely.
paying attention to this, I didn't do, like, a 45-minute, 4 mile an hour hustle. I did a, like, small little walk, just 10 minutes, just 5, 15 minutes. Go slow. When you're first starting, you don't have to go after it that quick. You just build it up. If you do a little bit more and a little bit more, even like monthly, like I'm going to do this much this month, and then I'm going to do next month, I'm going to try to go 5 minutes longer. And then just those small incremental changes, like maybe you want to just drink a little bit more water in the day. And maybe you just want to add in a little bit of protein and you want to take out maybe you want to not drink Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday, and just like little changes to help you have that better health. And now that younger designers probably aren't as concerned as you get when you get to be
There's
our
no
age,
writing on the
they're a little
wall
bit
yet.
more like, okay, I need to start taking this seriously. And certainly, like for the interior design community, our general statistics are we have about 75% of the people that follow us are women, and then 25% are men.
Mhm.
So we know in our own community, like for women, I think about the mental load too, because some of them are moms and some of them are
Juggling, they're
they're
juggling.
juggling everything.
Yeah,
They're servicing everyone, they're servicing their clients, they're servicing their families.
families.
They're
Mhm.
thinking about the mental load, like who needs to be in soccer, who has a doctor's appointment this week, who's gonna get this picked up at the store for them. And it's hard to put yourself first in that scenario. And I think that it's just like that's just one less thing to worry about if they don't think about themselves. They
Sure.
already have to present an image, right? Being a designer is not a job where you don't have to consider what you look like. It just isn't. So you have to present a fashionable image, and that alone is work. Also, that's another task for designers every
Of
day.
course.
I have to
So
look this way.
So I wanted to make one point here, especially with IDC, and thank you for what you do for our community. It's one of the main things I see always coming across social media. We're all talking, even today, you were posting something about coaching and processes and systems. So we focus so much about we focus so much on getting our business off the ground, sustainability of our business, profitability of our business, staying out of trouble, like you had to think about the tax, sales tax and things like that. So we're watching our 12, we're watching our 6, family, this, that, and the other. And everyone's talking about this process and we're buying into this system and so on and so forth. And it's okay. So why not take a holistic approach to your life and provide or create or consult with someone or collaborate with another designer in a partner scenario of a system for your health and wellness, your
Right.
mental wellness, your physical wellness, and holistically keep that as part of the one big giant egg, which is your life. Because it's unfortunate, and it's still this way today, that Western culture is all about responding or reacting to symptoms. It's not a preventative culture when it comes to physical ailments, mental ailments, things of that nature. We have to suffer first, then we diagnose, then we treat.
Right.
However, if we treated ourselves every day, and when I say that, I don't mean the sundae at Dairy Queen or the bottle of wine, because not a lot of us take a glass, but whatever it is that's your vice, mold that down into something that your body can handle and something that doesn't prevent you from performing the duties every day that you need to perform as a mother, as a father, as a designer, whatever you do. And still, as part of that system, create the framework so that you can budget your time, which you're doing for your clients, budget your time for yourself. And I know that sounds like it's just coming off of my tongue so easily. And people are like, I don't have time. I don't have the time. It's you have to make the time. And if it means going to bed earlier and getting up early, going for a walk before you go to work or whatever it is, whether you work for a company or you work for yourself, especially us working for ourselves, the solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, discipline is a major factor. The one other thing I wanted to point out, Lori, is that when you were mentioning about things you were doing and you don't have to start doing 45 minutes at 4 miles an hour and all these other things, you take small bites. One thing I think is important to that when you started saying add this in, add that in, and then you see this developing as a regimen, it's important to track. It's important to document whether it's on your phone. I'll even put workouts in on Google Calendar. I did upper body workout today. I did some cardio, 10 minutes, felt like crap. It's in my system. Didn't
Yeah.
eat well today, or actually had 3 good meals today, didn't overdo the coffee. Whatever it is, a little book. If you use electronics, use
Yep.
your iPad or whatever. And what's important about that is on the day you wake up, and I'm talking from personal experience, because today I woke up, it was overcast. All right. I'm already under fire. Okay. I don't even have a busy day today with work, but I'm knocked down a couple pegs because unfortunately I suffer a little bit from seasonal affective disorder.
Sure.
And my mood was, you know, I was
Yeah.
already starting like that.
Yeah.
So we get moving. Luckily, today was my acupuncture appointment. So I went to acupuncture. I worked on some things. I did some thinking while I was sitting there. And when I came out, the sun was out and my day changed. Whether it was still gloomy or sunny, I still had to, I was still a couple notches up from where I was when I got out of bed. But knowing that, looking back and saying, okay, I look at my calendar and I see I accomplished in the last 3 or 4 weeks this much. There's motivation for me to continue. I'm already feeling better. I'm seeing results in my body. And my mind is telling me, yeah, you might not feel great today, but think about how you were a month ago. And one of the main tenets of being an interior designer, running a successful firm, is establishing touch points with your clients. Any business, that you have to have touch points in your system, you have to have touch points with your clientele. So you need to have touch points with yourself. You need to remember, right? Check yourself, right? Just like the song, you need to check yourself. Check
You wreck
yourself.
yourself.
That's right. I'm not into wrecking myself anymore.
Exactly.
We all have our, like you said, the bad habits, the vices.
Yeah.
But if you establish some goals, which I loosely mentioned earlier, have a goal in mind,
Yeah.
whether it's lose a couple pounds, get up and walk a 5K, get up and complete a 5K jogging. They have events in every city. That's one of my goals, coincidentally, is to be able to run a 5K again, because it's been decades since I've done it. But the runs look fun. It's
Yeah.
great. You get a little medal and there's all the
That's a good
fanfare
thing. A
behind
little
it.
reward.
Yeah, a
Exactly.
little reward. So your reward may be we get these dark chocolate sea salt caramels. So
Ooh.
my reward is I worked out today. I'm going to have that caramel at night.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, create that reward system for yourself. Or if it's just knowing that you're taking the steps towards your fitness, then just buy into yourself and believe in that. And you can
Yes.
listen to motivating speakers. I try to tune into a lot of that on TikTok because then the algorithm will give me that. Same thing on Instagram, whether it's inspiration or people who are motivators or fitness people. Because the more you start to bring stuff into your life, into your, what's the word I want to say without sounding foo about it? If you surround yourself with that energy,
Yeah.
you start to embody it, right?
You. Yes.
Whether it's like a Tony Robbins seminar and everybody's, yeah, this is great. And then afterwards, you're flying high for a while and you may pick up 40% of that. You may pick up 10% of that and continue on.
Right.
However, you have to make sure whoever's watching this, you're responsible for that investment of time and that investment of energy. And you're the one who's going to reap the benefits. Of course, peripherally, your family will because you'll be in a better mood. Your clients will because you'll handle things better, and your doctor's gonna be happy, and you won't have to be worrying about your health as you age and functionality, right? Our aging in place clientele, we try to make things easier for them, but when we do that, don't we think, "Hey, do I really need to be worried about bending over to get into a cabinet or worrying about falling and hitting my head if I drop the pepper when I'm cooking?" So there has to come a point in time where the buttons start clicking and you're like, okay, I need to practice what I preach for myself, for my
Right.
family. So
Absolutely.
there has to be the system, there has to be the investment, there has to be the commitment.
I think that's true. And I'll tell you a few things that worked for me is I use the Lose It app to monitor my food. I have an eye watch, so I love getting those circles finished and my little reward of it like sparkling. That's fun.
Yeah.
Uh, I love it. And then we recently, for interior design community, started a Move With Us challenge. There's only
Oh,
5
yeah, I think I
designers in it,
saw
but
that.
it's been fun. I'm number 1.
Hey, do you have a lot of
But I
participants?
really want
People
someone
say
to beat me because I'm just walking. Like, I'm just walking. every day. I like to go for walks, so that's really how I get most of my
It's very
steps
healthy
in.
for you. It's good. It's actually one of the best forms of exercise as we're aging. People think they have to run or whatever,
Yeah.
but if you have any kind of grade in your neighborhood, if you're not just walking flat all the time, or if you do some steps in a building or whatever, all this helps. It helps
And it
so
doesn't even
much.
have to be done at once. I was listening to this NPR broadcast that was really interesting, and they did a group of people who did by every hour, they set like an alarm on their phone and they did
Mhm.
5 minutes of walking, like on a walking pad or even just walking around your house, whatever, for 5 minutes. And then, but it like, and then they monitored these people and they had lost weight, they had better brain activity, like all of the good things. I tried it. I did set an alarm on my phone every hour and it drove me nuts. I was like, I can't do it. Like,
'Cause the moment you started
I,
getting into something, right? You're
yeah,
working
yeah.
on something,
Oh,
I gotta stop. Um,
exactly. I'm like, I can't stop right now. I'm busy.
I had
I have to
something
do
on
mine in the
my
morning. 'Cause
yeah, I
I'm
had
not a
like a
night I can't do a night work like, my son does a night workout. I'm like, "How do you go and do that?"
no, I wouldn't do that, not night.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
was gonna tell you I had
He's
this
20,
wellness
so
thing.
21.
I have this wellness thing on my computer that pops up, and I was like, "What is that?" And I think I disabled it because again, it was stopping me in the middle of sometimes you're just in the zone with a design and you're like, "No, I can't stop." But it said, "Stand up or look away from the screen for 2 minutes," or whatever it is for
Yeah,
wellness. And
yes,
it's little reminders and it's yes, we now have the technology, whether it's your cell phone or your Apple Watch or your computer, to remind us that we have to get up and move around. Sitting at the desk for as we know, if I'm working on a design, I can sit there for 2 to 3 hours and not flinch
right,
until I'm thirsty, hungry, or have to go to bathroom, and then I get up. But
right,
sitting is the root cause of the weight gain, of the inflexibility, of muscle shortening
right.
because we're in this posture for so long. And if we're slouched over or we're not our neck isn't in good alignment day after week after month, our body changes
Right.
because we don't take time to say,
You
"Oh,
have
this is
no
why my"
idea how afraid I am of the TikTok hump.
Oh,
I
yeah,
do
the
not
hump?
wanna be
Yes.
like a hunchback when I'm older because I am on my phone way too much. I really
Oh,
am,
the
and
looking down. Yeah, looking
yes.
down.
Oh, I don't wanna have a hump. I'm, like, terrified of it.
I bought one of those little neck arch support things,
Right? Oh,
little foam things, so you lay down and it
yeah, lay down, stretch it
yeah,
all
you lay
out.
down, it
Oh.
stretches your yeah, listen, again, I'm investing in these things because 'cause I'm like, I'm gonna do whatever I can. Because if you have to go to a chiropractor or a doctor, I'm not saying there's not validity in that, of course there is, but you can take a couple minutes a day to work on yourself and eliminate the need to spend time traveling, sitting in a waiting room. You don't have time to do that. You got
No.
to make if you have time, a little bit of time to work on yourself by yourself, then you save all that time later of having to go to the doctor. That's the key thing is just healthy lifestyle, do what you can to help yourself. And when you need help, get it, ask for it. But I think we can do a lot more as designers, as humans to
Right,
work on ourselves and be cognizant of how we are punishing our bodies daily and how we can be kinder and gentler to ourselves. We just
right.
need to have that check-in. Schedule that check-in with yourself.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about it, before, how about, like, physically check in too, really, like, when you wake up,
How do
make
you
those
yeah, it's the whole thing where you say somebody asks you, "How do you feel?" You're like, "I'm alright." And when your go-to, the knee-jerk reaction is when they ask how you feel, you go and think emotionally, "How do I feel? Am I stressed? Am I handling it? How well do I know this person?" Because that's gonna determine the next steps of am I doing an ugly cry right now in front of this person because they confronted me? And it's like looking in the mirror, or am I just gonna be heart to heart? You know what? I really don't feel that great. And obviously there's a time and place for this conversation, but when you're just by yourself, right? And you get up and you're sitting on the edge of your bed and you're like contemplating your life and you're like, all right, this is what I got to do. And if you can take 30 seconds to a minute before you actually jump out of bed and go into, I'm looking at my phone, I'm brushing my teeth. We need to do these rudimentary activities, just those activities with mindfulness. And this is, I know, a whole other tangent, but Whenever I try to dial in, when I feel like my center is gone, I'm irritable, I can't focus, I can't concentrate, and I know it's not my medication. I know it's not my physical fitness. This is 100% mental stuff, and I realize that I'm overloading my body. I start to, okay, my feet are on the ground. How do my feet feel? Wiggle my toes. How's my chest and back feel? How are my arms? Are my hands sore? I was typing a lot yesterday or working with the mouse, and all these things that affect our body that we put this like body armor on, and it's just, it hurts for a minute. We forget about it. Then here comes the next layer, then the next layer. And before you know it, then you have all these syndromes and symptoms of physical ailments, and you say, how the hell did I get here? You got there by not listening to your body. And unfortunately, especially for men, we don't typically have to go to not the hospital, the doctors as much as the female population does for certain reasons. So we tend to ignore that stuff, and we have this mentality. I know I get it from my father. I can speak candidly about it, that I'm okay. I'm all right. I don't need to. Don't want to bother me. I don't want to answer the questions. I can handle it. And sometimes you really just don't handle it.
Right.
And then
Or
your
it
body breaks
handles
down.
you.
Yeah,
'Cause
and then you're like, and it takes my partner to say, you're not right. What's going on?" I say, "You know what? Yeah, I'm not right. And these are some things that I'm thinking right now, or this is how I'm feeling." And I think that for those of us who don't have that sounding board, it's important to establish a touch point with either a family member, a colleague, someone on your design team, that you guys can hold each other accountable and say, listen, no judgment. I come in the office, I'm going to shut the door. I can tell you don't feel right. I can tell you're not acting right. Are you okay? And this is that whole, which unfortunately just really became trendy, if you will, to talk about and to be open about mental health. All of us, all of our lives have dealt with some sort of mental health issue, whether it's feeling left out, feeling sad, feeling depressed, not understanding where the feelings are coming from. And that's not something that a friend can always diagnose or a family member can diagnose, but checking in with yourself, checking in with someone else, and then understanding that, hey, we might need to enlist a medical professional. You get to that point by taking that personal inventory, that self inventory. And sometimes the red flag comes from someone coming to us who cares about us and pulls us aside and said, "Let me talk to you for a minute." And it's happened to me several times in my life. And for all those moments, I'm grateful because I feel like the people who really know you know when you're not. I know that
right.
sounds redundant, but you spend time with someone. There are people that I see once a year at KBiz or in New York at like a design show. And then you see their face on social media all the time. And it's almost, I hate that I can tell so much just by looking at your face because I know you. And it's in my constitution to want to be helpful to everyone. Obviously, people have boundaries. Obviously, you have to be gentle in your approach to other people. But I will say that anytime someone has come to me and asked how I was and they knew that I wasn't right, it was groundbreaking for me. It was like, ah, I can get this off my
Someone sees
shoulders.
me.
I
Someone
can get
notices. That
someone
that alone
notices.
sometimes is so valuable that somebody can look at you and say that they see you. They
Yeah,
know. And that's wonderful too. And I think that inherently design is such a stressful job and so much is out of your hands. You cannot control whether or not something comes in on time, whether it's not broken, whether that tile person put the tile in correctly, whether the plumber did the right job, whether the homeowner is happy or not happy, their emotions. There's just so much you just cannot control. And it leads designers to feel these emotions, and those emotions have to go somewhere. They have to be dealt with. And
they
whether they're
store
the
in the
most successful
body.
designer or not, they're
Yeah,
going to feel that
yep,
internally in their
yeah,
bodies.
yeah, and like, we were talking earlier about, like I mentioned, seeing the acupuncturist, which that started years ago before my first hip replacement to abate the pain, and I felt like I should wait before I got the surgery. Oh, well, the hip will last longer. And then once the second one started to hurt, I didn't hesitate because I know that mechanically your body is overcompensating on one side when the one side's down. So
Right.
acupuncture helps me now, not so much for the physical, but more for the emotional well-being. It does help for the physical too. She asked, my acupuncturist asked me how you're feeling. She's hitting certain meridian points. She's developing that chi energy to move to certain areas of my body or certain organ lines because those are the organs that are related to stress or related to happiness or whatever. Also started to do massage therapy, the physical fitness, the workouts, cardiovascular, trying to think what else. The nutritional component, and then just taking some time when I start to worry to say, "Okay, hold on, this is happening right now. All right, I'm worried about when's the next job coming in?" Or like you said, "When's this component coming in that we're waiting for?" And my client's getting antsy. And I make it a point, Laurie, to say, clear the desk for a second, shut the computer down, let me close my eyes, let me breathe, let me check in and see how I'm feeling. And then you have to deal with those thoughts individually and say, can't do it right now, can't do anything about it right now. Write it down, make your list, get it out of your head. What's the next thing? As far as visualization, one of the things I learned years ago when you're talking about, okay, try to meditate. Meditation doesn't come easy. It's one of the hardest practices to do until you perfect it or you get really good at it. And then you can meditate 10, 15, 20 minutes. Most of us close our eyes. We sit there and we're like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. You can't get comfortable. Then the thoughts invade your mind. So thoughts are always going to come into your brain. We're designers. We have so many things going on, personal, work wise, career wise, whatever. And then goal, finances, things of that nature. You have to think of those as clouds in the sky and they're passing. And some of these clouds, you're going to kind of mold and say, okay, I fixed it. It's there for now. It's good. Some of them are going to linger. And you just have to understand that you can't do it all every time, all the
Right.
time. You
Right.
have to understand that there's limitations and recognize that communication is going to be your friend. So communicating with yourself, but then also your dialogue with your clients should be first and foremost, these are the expectations in working with me in doing this project. And again, getting back to your mental well-being and your physical well-being is that I stand here rooted knowing that these are truths. I'm telling you truths. This is important because when you speak truthfully, it resonates, the vibration resonates better through your body to that person. Now, whether they're a skeptic or they're not going to believe you or the bridge is burned, you can only do what you can do. You can only control what you can control. But when you come in with sound body and mind, you're going to communicate more effectively and you're going to be calm. And people that are when something escalates, right? A conversation, emotions get heightened. The person who stays calm controls that conversation. And I just had lunch with a designer the other day and we were talking about this. And she told me, I was like, what did you do? You're like, when's the last time someone sat there and screamed at you? So that happened the other day. So I sat there and I took it and I knew that ultimately I had to respond. And I told them what I told them initially that got them upset and reminded them that I'm on top of things and I'm here to take care of you. And the reason I could do that is because I do my bicycle in the morning or I do my meditation or I eat well. And for those of you who don't believe it, I challenge you to, if you're not taking care of your body, start. If you feel like you can't control your emotions, start taking care of yourself. I guarantee you will feel a difference in the way you communicate effectively.
Yeah. That is just massive information for someone to
I'm
absorb.
not
I
perfect,
mean,
believe me. The
yeah.
emotions start to take me over, but the better I get at perfecting my body and my mind, the better I am to handle situations.
I think that a lot of designers take that on, and they also have to recognize that the client's emotions or the is not theirs to that those are not their emotions. Just because the client is feeling anxious, you have to recognize I am capable. I've handled this before. I'm going to be fine. I'm a capable person
Mhm.
and not absorb that emotion into yourself. I mean, just because they're stressed out, this is the first time that they've ever handled a remodel, maybe. Or maybe they've done
Sure.
it before, they're a repeat client, but this is new to them. This is all gonna be this is not what they deal with on the day-to-day basis, but it is something that you deal with in the day-to-day basis. So you cannot let those emotions come into your body and affect you in that same way. You have to say, okay, that's how they feel. They're welcome to their feelings. They should have their feelings, but I know I'm
Mm.
capable and it's going to be fine. And not go home and be up all night because you're worried that about their emotions, about how they feel about you. That in some ways, that's none of your business how they feel. That's their
I
journey.
know. I know. That's we can say that speaking about it, but most of us, present company included, we think about things. And
Sure.
unfortunately, I think one of the prerequisites of being an interior designer is also being an overthinker, which can also lead to our demise.
Right.
When you're sitting in the
And being
middle
very
of
empathetic too. I
being
think designers are
empathetic.
very
Yes.
empathetic people. And those
Yes.
two things are going to cause you to feel those emotions when others feel that emotion. You're going to feel like, oh, I've let them down. When you
The
haven't let
people
them down,
pleasing, yeah, the people pleasing, like that mentality, which is a great mentality to have because you're in a service industry. But you would agree, though, Laurie, that there comes a moment, especially if it's overly aggressive confrontation, and you're like, hey, okay, you've crossed the line of dignity and self respect.
sure,
And now we're going to have a different conversation,
sure,
or we're going to
boundaries.
sidebar this until we can speak calmly about the situation. And that comes with experience and a lot of experience. And some of us are better than others at handling that. And my heart goes out to people who haven't been in the trenches with a project or a client and had to really sit there and dig yourself out, knowing that nothing is permanent. We will get through this and having confidence in that when you don't have all the answers at that time and conveying that to your client, right? What would you say? What's the advice you give to someone who is a newbie at that? And they're like, I just don't know how to handle this client because I don't know that there's a magic bullet for something to say because every situation is unique. However, I think there's a magic bullet about what you're willing to accept as far as verbal abuse or once the expletives come out, it's okay, we
Mhm.
are done. We
Right.
we are done
Right.
for now. You get a pass this time. I'm going to exit the building. I'll be in touch. What's your advice, Laurie?
I think that I remember being a young professional and having someone scream expletives at me, and I think that it's one of those things you have to just wait it out. Like, you do have to step away. You have to step away. You have to close that conversation. Our emotions are heightened. We should not be saying anything that is going to permanently damage our professional relationship.
Mhm.
This conversation needs to stop for right now, and we'll come back to it later. And you need to exit the conversation as quickly as possible before something gets said that either of you would regret. And you need time to come back in a few days later when you're able to have a conversation that's a little bit more calm. And I think there's a lot of defending positions, the clients defending their position, the designers defending their position. And the truth is always somewhere in the middle. There
Sure.
most of the time they this is an expectation thing, but I find that at the end of the day, you can't please every single person. You're never going to fully give them everything they want, nor would they be happy if they did. They wouldn't respect you if they did get everything they want from you all the time. So having those boundaries is important for them as it is for you. You need to define that circle of respect and where that is for you. Some people, I know designers who swearing doesn't matter to them. They absorb it. They don't care. It does matter to me. It would bother me. It
Sure.
would feel very disrespectful to me. And when it happens to me, that's what I do. I immediately stop it, immediately exit that conversation, and I will come back to them again. And I will set a boundary that's not acceptable to me.
There has to be accountability on both sides for sure.
Yeah.
And when you were saying about the defending sides, the
Let's
ego
just,
comes.
let's just, one more point too is
Sure.
that there, sometimes with designers and clients, there's a huge power imbalance that we're not talking about. They have the money and we want it. We want the money that they owe us for paying us for
Yeah.
the service that we're doing, right?
Sure.
They have a lot more resources than we do. Even the top designers who have maybe their clients are billionaires, not millionaires, have somebody that there's a power imbalance with their client and them.
Mhm.
there inherently is in the service industry. When you're a waitress, even at a high-end service, high-end restaurant, you're not on the same income level as your clients, and the same as in the industry. In the if you're selling Mercedes or if you're
Yeah.
an interior designer, you're not in the same income level as a lot of your clients. And because of that, they have more money for litigation. They have more money for to cause your business problems. So you feel that, and it's a scary feeling to feel that power
Vulnerability.
imbalance.
Yeah, vulnerability, I think,
It's
is a big
hugely
thing.
vulnerable. It's
Yeah.
hugely vulnerable. And so how do you handle somebody who you have this power imbalance, but you have to establish authority with them too, that they should trust you, that you are the person that they hired and are the person that's going to make this okay. It's a delicate balance. And certainly in those heightened emotion moments, you try to remind them that you're on their team. You are They hired you for this reason. You're on their side. So, getting back to that is as much as you can. And also the setting expectations part in the very beginning where
Of
things are
course.
going to go wrong. Things letting them know from the very beginning. Things are going to go wrong. That's part of the process. I do whatever I can to mitigate those problems. I work with brands that I really trust. I work with professionals I really trust. But at the end of the day, there's human experience woven through all of this. So we need to expect that sometimes there will be human error. Sometimes everybody will do the best job that they possibly can, and it still isn't going to be up to your expectations. So in those moments, you need to trust that I'm the professional that is here to help you and that we're going to get through it the best way we can. But ultimately, it's not going to be a perfect process. And the more
Yeah.
you check in with them and remind them of that, people are human. They understand people make mistakes. They understand that you're juggling a bunch of balls in the air. And so you have to check in with them on that and make sure that you're not dragging it home to your family and,
Correct.
and to that you're not bringing that emotion home and you're up all night and you're dealing with that stress. So you're not able to enjoy your kids' basketball game, or you're not able to help your daughter with their homework, or you're not able to think about your own to unwind and watch a show or with your husband or whatever. Those things are part of your life too. And you have to make sure that you can compartmentalize that the best way you possibly can so that you have the life that you want for yourself too.
And that's achievable when you're you come from that place of wellness when
Right.
you approach your client, when you approach a situation. And if you have, that health embodiment, right, that we've been talking about this entire time, then you're prepared
Right.
regardless of what storm comes your way. Nothing is easy. I don't think anything we do is easy at
No.
all. Okay.
No.
But everything you just mentioned and all like you're saying litigation and like the conversations and all these things, it's at the end of the day, regardless if you have a team, it's on your shoulders
It
and you're
is.
the one that has to execute. I mean, you hope your team collaborates and holds you up. But at the end of the day, you gotta make some tough decisions and you have to do the work and you're better prepared when you feel well and when you're grounded, and that's why I stand by trying to do daily, weekly checks, monthly checks with yourself, and just to know that, hey, for if something happens to you and you're running late, then you're already behind, right? So that's one example. You're never late if you're always prepared and if you're setting up yourself to prevent failure. Fail to plan to fail. So use this adage of taking care of yourself daily so that you're always prepared. You're prepared. You're not going to get injured as easily. Your emotional health is going to be more intact. Taking the steps to make sure that your future is a healthy, sustainable future and that you're prepared no matter what happens. And I think that if you take one thing away from this talk that we're having, it's just that remind yourself that you're important. And without you, none of this exists,
I
right?
love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Michael, for your time. I'm really excited that we got to
My
talk to you about
pleasure.
this issue. It's such an important issue for our community, and I really appreciate your time.
was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye bye.